Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I hope everyone is doing all right. Let me make sure my rig is good. Guys, if you enjoy the content and you find yourself coming back here often, please consider supporting the content either through PayPal or Patreon, or for that matter, you can give directly through Streamlabs. It's just a PayPal, it's a super chat alternative. The channel has been demonetized, and so this is my debasing myself trying to raise funds for the channel. There's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. Yeah, let's go with that. There's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. Now, engage me for the moment. Say this is true, that there's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet, that there's something out there that is going to land and hit this planet. What do you do? What do you do? Engage me for the moment. Pretend this is a 420. Blaze one if you got one, and engage me for the moment in the narrative. There's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. What does the media do? For that matter, what do you do? What do you feel? What do you say? Do you say anything to your parents? Do you say anything to your kid? Do you say anything to your dog? How do you prosecute the rest of your life knowing that there's something up there that at a certain point is going to land down here with a tremendous force and eradicate everything that you've ever loved and cared about off the face of this planet? There's nothing in the universe that'll weep. There's an asteroid that is going to hit the planet. What do you do? How would you know, for that matter? How would you know? I mean, ultimately, the only thing you could ever really go by, providing you can't necessarily see it, is by what people tell you. What you see on the media, what some scientist, some guy in a suit, or some guy in a bow tie with glasses pointing to some screen saying, look, it's out there. It's on this screen. It's on this monitor. Trust me, I have a safe face. There's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. The point I'm trying to make here is that ultimately the world that you have around you is, for all intents and purposes, given to you. It's not something that you can go out and directly experience. It's something that is given to you to some degree, and to some degree it's based on what you believe and what you give your beliefs into. And even the beliefs themselves, to some degree, are wired a particular way, not necessarily by you, but you could say by providence. As a child, let's talk about my childhood. I was raised by a mom who was essentially raised by somebody else, who was raised by somebody else, all of which took on this idea of a Christian faith. Now, under this model of the world, there was Jesus, there were angels, there was a void. At some point along this narrative and this path that you're given, this idea of a God and an angry God and the Jesus, he starts off as a white Jesus, but you develop and you get more advanced and you say, wait a minute, we're in a different area. Jesus would have to be black. So you end up with a black Jesus. But ultimately, you still end up with this idea of a heavenly Father, something out there somewhere creating this, giving this some degree of purpose. And in learning about this stuff, you learn about stories like a man in the belly of a fish, a person, Jesus ripping the bread into a billion pieces. You learn about all these things. Now, here's the catch. At some point, you grow up. And when you grow up, these things are still falling around in your head. And despite going to school, learning about science and chemistry and physics and all of these other things dealing with the physical universe, these things are still floating around in your noggin. And some people never escape the grips of those things. Some people still go to church. Some people still scream and howl at a Jesus. Sometimes there's some people who have a fervent belief in those things. And sometimes a fervent belief in those things interfere with the reality of real things. Meaning, there's some people out there who think climate change is for the birds because this is something that God and Jesus takes care of. I don't quite know why they believe that, but that's what they believe. My point here, and something I'm trying to get at, is real things. That our culture, to some degree, is the blame for the problem that we have with this, in this very specific issue. It would be easier if the asteroid was something that we could see, but ultimately we're stuck with our scientific devices. Science, in this case, being a tool in order to help us understand our world. And we're stuck with people who, for the most part, want to live in fantasies. There is an asteroid that is going to hit our planet. And the device that we use to perceive our world and to come up with conclusions about our world is being stymied by stuff like this floating around in people's noggins. It's not so much that somebody says, look, this is taking place. It's more so that somebody screws up the thing that is used to perceive the world to even say that, hey, that's a problem. I hope that makes sense. It's like your faculty, your ability to look at the world itself and make a determination about that world is somehow hampered by stuff like this. That's not everybody's reasoning, by the way. There's some people who use people like this who aren't necessarily all that invested into the physical sciences and everything else. And they use those people and their, let's say, skepticism and maybe, let's say, political identity to worm them into this idea of, oh, this stuff is a hoax. These scientists, for whatever reason, are coming up with this stuff as a hoax, and that the majority of these scientists who line up on one side of this particular issue are doing so because of some other reason. What I would say is this. There are dramatic consequences of people looking at this stuff as if it's a hoax. As carbon dioxide levels rise, major crops are losing their nutrients. What this means, just so we're clear, is what they realized was that the more nitrogen, or the more, carbon that's put into our environment, plants absorb the carbon almost like a junk food and push down the amount of nutrients in the food itself. Meaning, our culture, how we're going about our way, just the typical way we're going about our way is making our food less nutritious. Right now, we have 5 storms, 3 of which are going to hit the United States. Hurricane Isaac strengthened overnight to become the 5th hurricane of the 2018 Atlantic season, the 3rd currently swirling towards the United States, jointly joining Hurricanes Florence and Helene. My wife and I are going to get on a plane with a hurricane on our heels. Do you remember hurricanes ever being this intense over the course of your life? I'm 41 years old. I have no memory of them being this bad. Again, all of these are predictions. Exxon knew about climate change almost 40 years ago. Now, here's the thing. If the people are right that say the climate change is nonsense, why did Exxon know about it 40 years ago, and why did they immediately attack the science after finding out about it? Do you believe that the Exxon scientists were also part of the scheme to make the shit up? Let's keep going. I mean, this gets worse because the predictions get more dire. World has less than 2 years to avoid runaway climate change. This is bad. Listen to this. This guy. This is summer when, for many, climate change got real. And the link that he's pointing to here is Lisbon, because it was 115 degrees in Lisbon. They were having heat waves, even in Britain. Each year has gotten hotter. Each year has gotten hotter. This is the summer, for many, climate change got real. The future looks fiery and dangerous, hot on the heels of Trump, fake news, perilous state of the Brexit negotiation, despair in the air. Now the new scientific report makes the case even fairly modest future carbon emissions could set off a cascade of catastrophe, with melting permafrost releasing methane to ratchet up the global temperatures enough to drive much of the Amazon to die off, and so in a chain reaction around the world push the earth into a terrifying new hothouse state from which there is no return. Civilization as we know it will surely not survive. How do we deal with such news? That's a scientist. Like, these are the guys who explain our world to us. We trust them to build our cars, our boats, our ships, our bullets. We trust them to tell us about our universe. We trust them to build satellites to go flying across the earth. But in this very specific case, when many of these scientists all line up, each with more of a hair on fire report, nothing. How does it get nothing? There's an asteroid that's about to hit the planet. All of your scientists are lining up saying there's an asteroid that's about to hit the planet. And nothing! How does this get nothing? You have one hurricane after the next that's bashing this country. And nothing! I don't understand how this doesn't get the view or the focus that it deserves. They are screaming at the top of their lungs about Russia, and there's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. What am I missing? What am I missing? And the reason I'm doing this video is because I want to make this clear. This is not about Trump. People are trying to associate this with Trump as if all of this just started yesterday. Do you honestly believe that this guy's saying you have 2 years left to avert runaway climate change? Do you honestly believe that he's saying, look, the moment that Trump got in office, all of this shit started to happen at once? No! This was accumulation of all of these people in these various offices with one policy after the next, Democrats and Republicans, that stuck to this idea of not looking out for the well-being of the society itself and instead looking out for the interests of corporations, even when they knew and accepted that climate change was a reality. Republicans looked at this and said, it doesn't exist, so we don't have to do squat. And the Democratic Party looked at it and said, it exists, but we're not going to do anything that measurably changes it. There's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. And just so we're clear, I said culture, not necessarily just this thing of oil and gas. The second leading cause of climate change is animal agriculture. People don't like to talk about this one. I don't know why they don't want to talk about this one, but this is the second leading cause of climate change. The little old grandmother that goes and picks up that hamburger and takes it to her kid who loves those chicken nuggets so much, and that kid eyes lights up when he eats into that chicken nugget. He's like, yes! Grandma, thank you. I love my grandma. She got me these chicken nuggets. That grandmother is assisting in destroying the planet. There's an asteroid that's about to hit the planet, and that grandmother, one chicken nugget, has helped it that much further along. This is an issue of culture. This is not an issue of Donald Trump. This is an issue of culture. The moment that the person is eating a hamburger or a chicken nugget or is going to one of the fast food restaurants, all of those people are contributing to climate change. The person who is using their car, all are contributing to climate change. The cereal that you're using that has oil in the bag itself, meaning in the fiber of the bag itself, all of you are contributing to climate change. This is an issue of culture. This is not an issue of Donald Trump or an issue of one individual person. I'm trying to make that clear. It is aggravating to me to look at news feeds and have people hitting Donald Trump on climate. Yes, Donald Trump was horrible on climate, but let's be clear. If you're in a car and you hit the wall at 100 miles per hour, or 65, you're dead in both cases. If what you're doing is piecemeal and half measures and it's not necessarily getting the job done, then what does it matter? Then what does it matter? All of these hurricanes are fucking horrendous. All of the heat waves are fucking horrendous. But let's be very clear that all of this stuff has been compiling. You can say since the Industrial Revolution, you can make the argument. But if you're going back into the point where people became aware of climate change and didn't do anything about it because they wanted to make their profits. And to some degree, you can argue it's on all of us. There's an asteroid that's about to hit the planet. And we are not doing anything about it. And all of these people who are saying we have 2 years or whatever else, they're saying this because they don't want to come to the reality of we have an issue of culture that is not going to change. We're fucked. That's the reality of it. They don't want to say that because the moment that you say we're fucked, then what's the point of doing anything anyway? I have no idea for a solution to it. I notify with this idea of we're fucked. Alright. It boggles the mind to realize that people actually get in their ass on Sunday morning and go to church. What the fuck? Yeah, I mean, but you know, cultures, man. Like, I went and I watched. My mom was doing it was a Sunday thing, and they're so committed. Like, I'm amazed by it. I'm not necessarily amazed by this idea of not knowing. Saying I don't know is just honest. That's fair. Meaning the atheist position in this, I think it's nonsense. Unless I know there's some atheists who take the position of I don't know. Fair enough. But there's some who go far beyond this idea of I don't know to there's just nothing there. That comes across as religious to me. That seems just as religious as a person who's talking about God floating above. But you must understand, if you were a child, and as a child, day in and day out, everybody that was around you, every adult that you came across, believed something. Let's say they believed that the moon was made of Swiss cheese. And every last adult that you came in contact with from the time that you were 0 to the time that you were, let's say, 15, everybody said that the moon was made of Swiss cheese. What do you think you're going to believe? You think you're going to believe something other than the moon is made of Swiss cheese? No, you're going to believe that the moon is made of Swiss cheese. Now, at some point, you may come into conflict with that belief when other people are saying, dude, that's stupid. The moon is not made of Swiss cheese. But now you have a choice. Do you continue to believe that the moon is made of Swiss cheese, or do you change your belief system based upon the people who you've come in contact with? What I would tell you is that your view of Swiss cheese is insulated based on the 13, 14, 15 years that you've had built up. Your society has a large number of people that believes the stuff. And because it has a large number of people that believes the stuff, some believe it more religiously than others, meaning you have some people who are just kind of, I believe it just in case. And you have some who believe it fervently. But nevertheless, there's still this kind of thing. The Republican Party uses these people because they're not concerned about the religious aspect of it. They're concerned more so about, we want people to be able to dump their chemicals for the corporations that we represent. And let's be honest, the Democratic Party is not that far away from that. So, it's you can say this belief to some degree is being manipulated. You have another situation where people just don't care. Now, they don't care because they're dealing with issues that are pertinent to them. Meaning this is not an issue that you ride to Washington on. There's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. But this is not an issue that you ride to Washington on, because at the end of the day, people can't see the asteroid. Meaning they may know that something is off. They may know that the climate and things have gotten hotter. They may know that the storms have gotten worse. But between the storms getting worse and, hey, I need to make sure that I make enough money next week, I guarantee you that it's going to be, I need to make sure I make enough money next week. They're focused on their individual situations. There's no way that people can look to the sky unless they can deal with the issues that are affecting them on the planet. So that's what it boils down to. All right, I'm going to end this. I'm not going to keep this one long because even videos like this, nobody really cares. It's one of those things where there are a few people that fervently care about it, and it's almost as if the people that fervently care about it, it's you had me at hello. I gotta be honest, I don't understand the argument against this. If I'm wrong, I still get a better world and a cleaner climate. If you're wrong, there's an asteroid that's gonna hit the planet. I don't understand the argument against it. I get it if you're a corporate person, per se. And in this thing of being a corporate person, you don't give a shit about anybody else. You just want to make your profits. And so, in your standpoint, your worldview is motivated based on the circumstances within this capitalistic system. Fair enough. I think that's fucked up, but fair enough. I understand the point of view. But being a useful idiot, I have no idea why anybody would be on that side of the ledger if they're not being benefited by that side of the ledger, even though I know there are a ton of Republicans. So, fair enough. Jamal, stop saying nobody cares. We need to make progressives care because everything is at stake. Martian Villager, look, whether Boom Black Trailer, Jamal already gave up. I don't blame him. Oh, God, I must be seeming bleak. I've been listening to Chris Hedges. You tell me. Fair enough. Fair enough. Perhaps I'm being too morbid. Fair enough. How do you change people's culture? And how do you do it in the next 2 years? I don't know an answer to that. Like, I can say, yes, I can conceivably see a person getting in political office that may be more towards the side of anti-fracking. I can see that. I can conceptually see that. Do I conceptually see that person who may be anti-fracking doing anything from the standpoint of animal agriculture? No, I do not. No, I don't. Do I see that person doing anything about gas? Now, look, if you have a green energy revolution, you can cut down the amount of oil that you're using. And I can conceivably see somebody, if they're being really, if they nail that thing home of there's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet, these scientists are saying there's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet, and just because I can't see that asteroid, I'm going to rely on these scientists because I have no idea why they would lie with this. And so, yeah, we're going to have green energy cars. We're going to supplement the money that's necessary for these green energy cars. We're going to raise taxes on the wealthy and the rich because, let's be honest, to some degree, their innovation and technology helped create and spur this problem on, and they didn't want to do anything about it, and they've been pushing off this excess carbon and this excess, what turned out to be waste, for the society to take care of and deal with. So yeah, I guess, yeah. It's not that maybe I have given up. Yeah, maybe I have. But I don't function from the standpoint of I think something is going to change. I function from the standpoint of you do it regardless. I hope that makes sense. I don't know how to change people's culture. I don't even know how to change people's mind when they know that how they're organized and created was purely a function of where they came from. Meaning, if they were in China, they would act Chinese, and if they were in Japan, they would act Japanese, and if they were in America, they would act American, and if they were in, on planet Vulcan, they would act Vulcan. Even though they know that, like they intuitively know that, they still would say, the decisions that I make are purely my own. I of my own mind. How are you of your own mind when your own mind was crafted by the society that you were raised in, society and the culture? How do you get people to stop eating hamburgers? How do you get people to stop killing cows, killing pigs, putting them in these cramped, hellish pens? How do you get people to stop doing that? How do you get the little old grandmother that buys the chicken nuggets for the kid to realize that those chicken nuggets were abused and battered, and that the amount of meat in those products might be like a few percentage points? How do you get her to see that? I call that the rational human being perspective. This realization of something that I'm doing here is having an effect somewhere else, and that this particular action is not singular to all space and time. That there are effects. That the only way I get this chicken nugget is somebody had to give me that chicken nugget, and how did they get that chicken nugget, and what happened to the chicken, and how much did they pay the woman who handed me the chicken nugget, who's wearing the shirt that says I love my job, but being paid a shitty wage. Most people don't see the chain of action that takes place. I'm in I don't shop in Walmart. I'm saying a person is in Walmart, and then that person at Walmart interacts with a person at a checkout counter. That person at a checkout counter has a shirt on that says I love my job, while at the same token using food stamps. Do you care that the person is using food stamps at Walmart? Just saying. All right, I'm going to end this here because this one is going long. I haven't given up. Maybe I have. I don't know an answer to that, so maybe a little bit of both. Whether I've given up or not is irrelevant. No, it's not. That's not true. The reason I say that is you play differently depending on whether you think you're going to win or whether you think you're going to draw. By the same token, if you think you're going to lose, you can be as reckless as you want because you think you're going to lose. But in this case, I've had Guy McPherson on saying that it's kiss your ass goodbye. It's done. Learn how to die. This guy talking about 2 years. And do you honestly believe that there's going to be a cultural shift in 2 years from the standpoint of climate or from the standpoint of the way you eat? So, just saying. Just saying. We don't even think we have an issue with our culture. So I mean, go there. I mean, how many people have we been murdering left and right? Donald Trump is a drone program. He's out there murdering people left and right. Bush killed 1 million people. Nobody did anything about it. Obama came in, co-signed the fact that he killed 1 million people, up the ante with drone strikes all throughout that region of the globe. And Donald Trump comes in, essentially ups the ante and continues the same process. We are now potentially starting a nuclear war or a conflict that can tumble into World War III in the Middle East and Syria right now. We have no justification to be there. We're there nonetheless. There are multiple countries that are involved in this, in the same way there were multiple countries that were involved in World War I. And I tend to find comparisons. I often make comparisons because it seems very similar in the way that the brinksmanship is taking place in that part of the globe. Back at that time, it was, this guy killed Archduke Ferdinand when they knew goddamn well that Serbia had nothing to do with it. In this particular case, they're chemical weapons that have been released. And if there's another chemical weapon strike, wink, wink, we're going to get involved. You're going to get involved and do what? And do what? You're going to strike? And what happens if Russia strikes? Now, the United States has already owned up to the fact that they killed over 100 Russians. Think about what this means. Think about what this means from the standpoint of the world. And the way this is a potential for a larger war. That's all I'm saying. But we don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, the media doesn't look at that and says, hey, this is kind of fucked up. Why are we acting in this way? It doesn't do that. It doesn't question it at all. It's just, this is the way things are. And I look at this and like, but why are these things this way? This seems utterly fucking barbaric. And the solution is, well, those other guys act a particular way, so we have to act this way because they act that way. Our media is not even honest enough to own up to the fact that in the same way that we act a particular way based on how people act towards us, that other people act a particular way based on the way that we act towards them. Meaning, it's not a situation where the United States, everything that we do is just fucking, flowers and rainbows. No, we've done some really bad shit around the globe. And those other countries respond accordingly based on the things that we've done. I mean, we've looted the shit out of Russia during the time where the Soviet Union fell apart. You think they bring that up in the U.S. media? Do you realize that Bill Clinton was running an election in Russia in order to make sure that the communist candidate didn't win? Boris Yeltsin was hated in Russia. But that doesn't get airtime. Nobody cares about that. Instead, the conversation we're having is about Trump and Russia and about some kind of election hacking that wasn't election hacking. It was just spear phishing. And this is the shit that we've been talking about for the last 2 fucking years. It's fucking amazing. I guess my point is, we don't have honest conversations. Like, we have a situation where you have an asteroid that's about to hit the planet. The scientists across the globe own it. The people who explain your reality own it. If those people came out and literally said there was an asteroid that's going to hit the planet, would the media look up and say, hey? And is it just by chance that the media can't see it, and because they can't necessarily see it hitting the planet, they don't particularly care? I think it's worse than that. I think they know there's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. I think it doesn't sell. I think because it doesn't sell all that well, people can't see it. You can't get the drama associated with it. All of this is based on profit. Profit is a thing purely within the confines of the capitalistic system, which, by the way, is just a system. It's not a real thing from the standpoint of real physical matter reality. And yet, that unreal thing is given and holding sway over real things such as our lives, our civilization. Aggravating. It's fucking aggravating. Fucking aggravating. Building a new system to do damage control would take too much time. So are you saying there's no solution? Why are you? Yeah. But it would sell if they sold it. But would it? There are 58 people here right now. When I put this video up, it's not gonna... People don't care. People don't care. Don't get me wrong. to some degree, their issue is I have immediate concerns because I have immediate concerns. I have a wife to feed. I have a kid to feed. I have things I need to do. Am I really going to be overly concerned about this ethereal thing that's out there somewhere that's going to hit at some point in time that is not going to directly affect me now? Look, if you're on the left and you want to get people to care about that, you have to attend to their basic needs. How do you deal with anything beyond yourself if you can't deal with the things that are... I guarantee you, my concern for climate change diminishes when my needs are not met. I'm just saying. They glammed up gasoline and fighter jets, half a dozen nuclear power plants. Marshall, reformist incrementalism is responsible under these circumstances. Yes, agreed. Which is kind of my point about Trump. All of this emphasis on Donald Trump is this and Donald Trump is that. Donald Trump was not the one that brought you to the situation. You were brought to the situation by Democrats and Republicans. There's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet, and neither one of these parties has done anything substantial to do anything about it. The Paris Climate Accord is a neoliberal half measure that is not going to get you to where you need to be. To some degree, Democrats are worse. They agree that there's a problem. They agree. The person who they put up to run for the president of the United States was still pushing fracking, which is just as bad, if not worse, than the regular methods of climate change. And again, I make this point that this is an issue of culture when you have multiple things that are driving the climate change conversation. It's not just